Well, welcome everyone to our third in Keyscape's webinars on leveraging Keyscape LandCAD's technology, software built by landscape architects for landscape architects. My name is Ken Deese. I lead U.S. marketing here at Keysoft, and I'm joined by Nate Qualls, who is our product support lead here at Keysoft and an experienced landscape architect. Our focus on today's webinar will be on how Keyscape LandCAD's plant database functionality can make your designs more accurate and you and your teams more productive. So without further ado, I'll turn things over to Nate.
All right, thanks, Ken. Let's quickly go over a few topics that I want to cover today. Just a brief overview of what I want to address, all going to be based around a particular module of Keyscape LandCAD called Softworks. There will be some overlap with some other modules, and I'll describe that as we go through. But I encourage you, if you do have questions about our other modules, such as surface modeling or how we interface with Revit, to check out some of our other webinars we've recorded and posted on our YouTube page. So today I'm going to start talking about the way we create our plant using smart objects, how you can leverage your plant data to gain efficiency and coordinate strong, have a more strong collaboration method with your teammates, how you can customize our tool to fit your firm's signature look and feel in a way that's very transparent, and then how you can gain a lot of efficiencies through some of our tools, especially around addressing revisions. So the first thing is, why smart objects, and what are smart objects, and what's the benefit there? So smart objects describe both the physical and the functional. AutoCAD is really good at physical descriptions. That's geospatial data, where you are in space, how big something is, how it relates to another object in space. But what AutoCAD by itself does not do very well is address what that object actually is, who makes it, where to buy it, detailed names, detailed information that would really help working with your design partners, communicating your design to clients. Having all this information in one environment, such as Keyscape LandCAD, really enables all the stakeholders, the design partners, the clients, the project owner, to win back time, get the project built with less effort and less cost. Combining these attributes into one object in one environment speaks to the first theme of Keyscape LandCAD, which is automation. Although this presentation is going to focus mostly on the plant material, the framework of these smart objects and this theory I'm describing, it applies throughout our software, whether that's paving or surface modeling or quantity takeoffs. It's tying data to objects both physically and functionally. What this hints at is BIM compliance, and this is a very confusing graph that I'm putting up here. The basic gist is, as we move from design towards construction phases, it gets more expensive to change design and control the cost of those changes. What we want to do is leverage rich data tied to our designs to enable us to make decisions earlier in the project where they're going to impact the final construction cost the least. So this is a definition of what BIM compliance is. It's a virtual digital model where we're prototyping in a virtual world with rich data objects to inform decisions. It's as simple as that, but it all starts with this framework of smart objects. So let's look at how we would create some plant objects in Keyscape LandCAD. So here I'm just going to create some specimens. And specimens are any single symbol plant, such as a tree or a shrub or even a perennial. If you like showing those individual objects, that's great. So first I told the program the spread and the height of the mature tree. Now I'm going in and tying data to that geometry that's going to be created. We have our species, a common name, abbreviation. These are all coming from a database that you own and you share with your teammates. You can add as little or as much data at this point as you want. And that's important to note because you're not going to know everything at once. And I'll get to that a little bit later when we talk about the revision process and editing these smart objects. But right now I'm just going to create a tree from scratch using an illustrative symbol, a fair amount of information such as nursery stock height, caliper. I'm going to insert 3 trees here. I hit enter. I review my spec data to make sure that's all I want to do at this point. And now I have the option to label. I can label now, I can label later. If I didn't know what species this was, I might just leave it as a symbol and skip the labeling altogether. But since I do have an idea of what I wanted here, I went ahead and told it. We automatically generated an update to our plant list without clicking any buttons. We generated a plant label that's dynamic. So let's erase one of these objects. These trees are a little packed in here, so let's take one out just to show the dynamic capability of our program. As you can see, we're down to 2 maples, and that's been reflected in the plant list and in the labeling. Now we're going to the specification manager. This is how we make some quick revisions. Now that we have the smart data tied to an object, we have a lot of power over that object. We can change attributes globally, as I'm doing here. Let's select a cultivar of the Acer. Let's change some of the attributes, maybe based on an update we got from our nurserymen on what's available, or we just made a design decision and decided that another tree was more appropriate. And maybe we're moving forward in the process and we want to pick a more simple symbol that reads better in black and white. That can all be done on the fly. It can all be done globally and eliminate a lot of busy work from your process, enable you to focus more on the design, more on the core competency of your practice. All right. So in summary, the benefits of smart objects, we're establishing a basis for a lot of efficiency gains through dynamic scheduling, through speeding up the revision process, and even converting from 2D to 3D because this geometry has these embedded sizes of these objects. We can quickly make that change. We're also setting up a framework for centralizing the data related to your project. Again, that's a tenet of a BIM process where data can be shared amongst stakeholders. And we're increasing accuracy by removing the parts of the design process that computers are better at, such as quantifying and counting. That leaves us more time to do things that humans are good at, which is designing and being creative. And I'll touch a little bit here. We do have interfaces with Revit and soon to be on our next release an IFC export tool. If you're interested in more information about Revit and how we work with that, again, check out that YouTube video on the Keysoft Solutions YouTube channel. So managing plant data, this is a very firm-specific and proprietary data set. And what we do is we put it in your hands. We ship our product with over 9,000 plant species as a starting point, but it's a very open database that you can add to and modify as you see fit. You can organize specific plant lists by climate, region, project type, client. The sky's the limit here. And this speaks to the second cornerstone of what we consider when we develop new tools for Keyscape, and that's customization. We don't want our program to be visible from the outside world. We want you to own your look and feel, and maintain that reputation that you've built over time with your own symbols, with your own plant lists, with your own text styles even. And the other part of this very powerful database that underpins Softworks is the ability to share that data amongst your team members. So whether everybody has their own database on their own hard drive, or you're a small office and that works, more often than not, though, we would want to share this information on a network location between users or even between offices. We don't necessarily need connections to the internet or to a cloud resource, because these are your databases to customize as you see fit, and that our support team is on board with to help you customize on that early onboarding stage of Keyscape and learning how to use Softworks. This can also help strengthen that CAD standard within your organization by giving everybody access to the same database, the same pattern, the same styles, and the same symbols for each and every project as you move forward. So let's jump back into the software at this point. I'm going to access the database through the Database Manager button. And let's just look at trees. And we're going to look at the species names, which is a list of all the trees available in Keyscape by default. We can scroll through and see there's a ton of options here. And adding and modifying this list is as simple as a few button clicks. So this process, I'm adding a new species. This is kind of the one-by-one process. If you're in the middle of a project and you realize you're missing something, you can quickly add it here. There are some other workflows that we'll get to next of how to add multiple plants at once from existing databases, from existing Excel spreadsheets that you may have developed prior to even acquiring Keyscape LandCAD. So we've started a new species, we've given it our preferred common name, and we've given it 2 abbreviations. Just in case we have overlapping abbreviations, we can always update one or the other species to address that conflict. We can also do the same thing with other specifications like height and girth and pot size and caliper and even remarks and comments we'd put in our plant schedules. This is all customizable. All the drop downs can be modified as we see fit. So here I'm just adding another option to the specification data type. And I'm done with my database modifications for now. What I'll show next is how we would bring in multiple plants at once. So say you had an external Excel spreadsheet of preferred plants for your region. Let's call these zone 7. We'll set up a new group for this plant list, and you can organize these however you see fit, whether it's by project, by zone, by client, whatever. I'm going to quickly grab an Excel spreadsheet, and this Excel has multiple tables in it. I just want the trees tab. So I'm going to grab that, and now what I'm doing is aligning the spreadsheet with the Keyscape database. So column 1 is abbreviation, so I identify that. Column 2 is botanical name, which is in Keyscape is just called name. Several attributes here can all be tied together at once. I select all the objects I want in this custom plant list. And if any of these plants are not already existing within our database, it's going to add them. And there was 2 there. It didn't know necessarily what type of plant those were, so I told them they were trees. And now those trees have been added to the database. Here's our custom plant list with all the specification data tied together. The implication here is that once you have that data tied together, it's very quick to specify on that next project. You don't have to go through and pick a height and a symbol and a caliper. You can already have those preferred values keyed in. And then if further modification is needed, we can do that globally through the specification manager, or as I'm doing now, I'm adding pricing data to these smart objects. I'm also going to modify my plant list and turn it into more of a cost estimate by adding unit price first, and then total cost of each category. So categories include trees, shrubs, perennials, whatever you might spec in the project. So I modified that schedule. I'm going to switch to that view. Now I have plant data based on those dynamic quantities we generated from the plan, with the price that I updated with say a 15% contingency globally. And now we have some very accurate takeoffs of where we are in this design process, and we can revise as we move forward. So to recap on the benefits of the shared databases is just to make quicker and better design decisions and create that proprietary data that can be shared with amongst your team, organized however you see fit, stored on a local disk, stored on a network location, and to start standardizing your CAD standards and your processes of approaching a project to gain efficiencies and to eliminate time wasted, hunting for that similar project you did 3 years ago that had a great plant list you spent a lot of time on, and then bringing that into a new drawing, or just researching what's available. Maybe you have a good relationship with your nurserymen, and you can bring in the available lists of plants as a spreadsheet and update for each project. The third topic I want to focus on is, I've already touched on this a little bit, is preserving your brand and your firm's image. And that's very important to our customers, to be able to customize Keyscape very extensively, to be able to virtually match any CAD standard, I'd say 95% of the time. Whether you're labeling with a hexagonal call out, or you're labeling by botanical name or common name or just simple abbreviation, we can bring in any text style, draw that text style at any scale. We have a great library of symbols and plants built into Keyscape, but all that's customizable. All the libraries are expandable. This means at the end of the day, when you deliver your CD set to your client or to the installer or the contractor, no one's really going to know that you used a design aid like Keyscape LandCAD. This also speaks to the ability to automate and quantify your designs. So, maybe you do have a specific symbol you like to use for a type of plant in the construction drawing, but you also are going through other design phases. You start very schematically, such as in the DD phase. Maybe you're just using a circle to represent a tree. And then you're going into a rendering mode where you need to communicate to a client or a consultant what you're doing. So maybe you go to an illustrative 2D symbol, or even swap in a complex 3D symbol. All this is, you're able to do all these processes within the same drawing without worrying about versioning, redoing work, starting from scratch at different phases. Again, that speaks to this BIM process that underlies the way we develop this piece of software, is that there's one source of truth. It's the drawing that you're working on now, and that drawing can be quickly modified to address needs for specific phases of design. So let's jump back in to Keyscape again and kind of show that process of going from, say, a schematic design level through some different phases. So I'm creating a specimen that's 12 foot by 12 foot, so probably a small ornamental tree of sorts. I know that I've already got some large shade trees in this area, so maybe this is more of screening, or maybe this is a critical part where I might want a flowering ornamental tree, something like that. So I can quickly lay out symbols schematically. I could do this for the whole project and come back later where maybe I knew some more information about what that plant is. or maybe I want to prepare a more illustrative plan for presentation use. So I don't need to start from scratch. I don't need to go into a third-party software. We can do it right here. We're just going to swap in a different block. It's prompting me for a label, but I don't have the information I need for a label yet, so I just hit enter to skip that step. And now I've got an illustrative block. I'm doing this one by one in this example for just this grouping of 4 plants, but I could be doing this globally for hundreds of plants or thousands of plants. So at the next stage, maybe we want to start a 3D rendering. So I'm going to swap in a 3D block from our library, which again is customizable to your needs. If you have preferred blocks, we can bring those in. I click OK. Again, I skip the labeling step, but if I switch into a 3D view, you can see that the height that we keyed in earlier, while it might not have meant much at that point in time, now informs the way we scale in the Z direction. So now we have a nice grouping of ornamental plants. You know, if we did have a surface model created in Keyscape, which is another capability of our suite, we could have associated this plant material with that surface model and automatically snapped it to the correct Z elevation as well. So now I've done a little research about what's available in this area for plant material, and I want to pick a hawthorn. So I'm specifying some information there. And at this point, we've already got sign-off and approval from our client, so we're going into the CD phase. So here I'm swapping back to a simple 2D symbol that would read well in black and white. I'm placing a label, and I'm drawing a leader to it. There's a lot of workflows here about how leaders work, how they read, and what information is contained in the label. It's a lot of information to show here, so I'm going to simplify this label down to just abbreviation. We know it's going to get crowded, and it's usually a step I leave towards the end of the process is to actually label things, so I can arrange all the labels at once and know kind of spatially how I'm fitting all that in. So I'm changing my text style, I'm increasing the height a bit, and maybe we want it underlined. Again, a ton of options here. And there we have a very simple label style that would read well in a crowded plan. So I like to think of Keyscape as that invisible hand that helps automate the processes that are enabled by smart objects that computers and software are good at handling, all the while preserving the look and feel of your practice. We're avoiding rework between phases through rapid revisioning and saving time on busy work that we can spend in other places that are more valuable to the firm, such as the design phase to increase the quality of the design. Or maybe we can pick up another project this month because we have some hours we won back. The last thing I want to touch on today is revisioning, both between phases and at the end of the project, when things are critical, when budgets are dwindling down to nothing, and we risk, having to ask for a larger contract or just going in the red. As I mentioned before, switching 2D to 3D can be critical at certain points. Setting up that framework for a 3D rendering is a very powerful tool to have in your back pocket. So, instead of going out to SketchUp or going out to some other rendering tool to create an approximation of your design, by being able to shift the effort and the decision-making forward in the process, you can get to this 3D framework a lot quicker. You can tie plant data to surface models, and you can swap in 3D symbols that then, if you need to further refine, you can do so as you choose, but you know that this is an highly accurate, defendable framework and it's tied into some other modules in Keyscape LandCAD to really get some efficiencies and some kind of cross-functional gains here between working with civil engineers, working with maybe survey data, and preparing highly accurate defendable plans. The ability to address changes globally is a great tool late in the process, especially if something's not available at a nursery. The project gets value engineered. We can do things such as reduce density of planting beds to automatically across the site reduce the number of plants in total. We can quickly revise and move as footprints change from buildings, as grading plans and underground utilities move around. We can leverage some of our other tools in Keyscape LandCAD to help address those changes quickly. Again, referring back to that complicated graph at the very beginning of the presentation, by shifting the effort to the left earlier in the design process, we can win back time for that next project and avoid costly mistakes and embarrassing mistakes in the field. So let's look at some more revisioning and how we can do that very quickly. So here I've got a couple Korean furs in this project, and I don't like the symbol I'm using for them. I'm going to go through and just globally change that to a more CD level symbol. I can do this across the drawing to several different species at once here, just by clicking on Modify Specification, changing the symbol, hit Apply to Drawing. Let's grab a shrub symbol here. Click OK, Apply to Drawing, and let's click OK to see what the results are. There, those plants have all been changed, not just in this view, but across this drawing. And let's look at this little plant bed there. This is an area-based plant object, these miscanthus here. And we can see there's a bit of a discrepancy here. I have two different densities specified. Some of these are drawn at 1.5 feet on center, and some are drawn at 3 foot on center. But we need to save some money in this project, so I'm going to go to 4 foot on center. Apply that to the drawing, hit OK. And now my label updates dynamically, as well as my schedule and my cost estimate if I do have that. So here I jumped forward to this same drawing, but in a later stage where I'm almost done and ready to publish my construction documents. I swapped in simple, easy to read 2D symbols, but we're still able to quickly address those revisions before we send out the 100% set. So here I've got a lot of these inkberries in this drawing. And rather than search and find all 500 of them and change them manually, I'm just going to click through my library of symbols, find the one I prefer, hit OK, apply to drawing again, and now those all changed after a couple seconds of processing. But maybe I need to add some more information to that. Let's look at that real quick. Actually, let's look at these plants in the median. Again, rather than find every river birch in the drawing, I can do this globally or just apply it to a subset. So maybe I do have two sizes of river birch. I've got some specified at 4-inch caliper and some specified at 2-inch caliper. I can separate those out quickly. I can also add more notes to my schedule. And now those have changed globally as well. Let's zoom over to the schedule to see the updates have been applied. Great. As you see, this is a rather large project, so hunting around could have been a very lengthy process, but because I had Keyscape LandCAD, I was able to win back that busy work and not stay up thinking if I had updated that schedule or if I double counted a block. So we have less chance of a blown budget. We're spending our time where it counts in the design process. We're relying on one true working model to ease coordination and confusion around versioning of drawings. We're avoiding rework when we're going through rendering phases. And we're able to eliminate embarrassing and costly mistakes late in the game. So less addendum being issued, less field changes. So let's look at Softworks as a whole. Like, why would we choose Keyscape over traditional drafting methods using just AutoCAD? And we're shifting that time effort forward in the design process, so it's setting us up for less liability later on. We're avoiding costly mistakes. We're unifying office standards, increasing your reputation through that preferred look that you've worked so hard to achieve already. We're future-proofing your process by thinking about BIM now before it's actually mandated, but when you can still glean efficiency gains from a BIM-style process. Right now we have export to Revit, which is great if you are working in conjunction with architects or are working on projects primed by architects. We'll soon be introducing export to IFC that will enable you to share with any BIM-capable product. And the overarching takeaway here is to focus on the core competencies of your firm, not on the busy work that sidetracks you and opens you up for mistakes. Our other modules share this level of customizable data-rich objects that enable better decision-making and communication with faster turnaround and revisions. So not just Softworks, but paving, hardscape, surface modeling, even irrigation is all improved by this style of process. Keyscape is currently the only AutoCAD-based product developed specifically for landscape architects that's taking steps towards BIM compliance and preparing you for that future. So thanks, guys, for listening in. I'm going to hand it back over to Ken now to wrap this up and take us home.
Well, thank you, Nate, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As Nate said, this is one of a number of solutions within Keyscape LandCAD that really help our clients vastly improve their productivity, that enables them to take on more projects per year, drives greater profit margins because they're finding time, and increases the design quality and the QA, enhancing your brand reputation because confidence levels are higher in the designs that you are doing in less time, that allow you to spend more time thinking about the design aspects of the job. And it also simply makes the designers' lives easier, which is always great when you're trying to retain talent. So we hope that you've seen the substantial productivity benefits that this AutoCAD plugin can provide. We have recorded this webinar, so this video will also be available on our YouTube channel in the event that you may want to see parts of it again, or you may want to share it with some of your teammates. We hope that you can join us for our next webinar, which will be focused on Keyscape LandCAD's dynamic hardscape and paving module. That comes up on Tuesday, April 18th. If you'd like any more information about this or any aspect of Keyscape LandCAD, you can reach Mike Schumann at Keysoft Solutions here at this email address and phone. On behalf of Nate, myself, and the entire Keysoft team, thank you very much.